I just walked away from a $5 million business that I dedicated the last 3 years of my life building, all because it felt right in my intuition. And in this video, I wanted to share the ugly truth about what happens after you actually make $1 million, or when you get to the top of Success Mountain. And hopefully from that, you guys can learn exactly what not to do. It says in Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil that the top of the mountain is far more dangerous than the bottom, because at the top, the devil has more things he can use to bring you down. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Armin Shafee. I founded the company highticketcoaching.com that created multiple award-winning programs, helping people make 6, 7, and 8 figures as a coach. We won a bunch of awards like that, and even helped like a 19-year-old kid make his first million in 10 months. And as a byproduct of that, I was able to become the first millionaire in my family. And that all sounds great. And it sounds really nice, right? Nice little elevator pitch. But behind that, there is a lot that goes to it. And there's a lot of ugliness that happens and a lot of hard stuff. And this video is about that. Not about the nice stuff that we say, but about the things that actually happen and nobody prepares you for. And I want to share it with you guys. See, when I first started my business, I had a vision. I wanted to become the first millionaire in my family. In fact, when I was 17 years old, I remember making a promise to myself. I'm like, Armin, by the age of 25, you're gonna make $1 million. And it's crazy because it took exactly 8 years, and exactly around 25 years old, I actually crossed $1 million. Since then, we've done $4 more million, but you're gonna see why that doesn't matter, and why past a certain point, especially when the reason you're doing it goes, it doesn't matter how much money you're making. And so I started that, and I set my mind to it. And luckily for me, I had the privilege of teaching, studying, and working with the president of Think and Grow Rich. And so for a couple of years in my 20s, I was actually teaching seminars. And one day I just sat there and I thought, we're teaching all these people. It's not my curriculum, it was Napoleon Hill. I was teaching all these people how to think and grow rich. And as I was sitting there, I'm like, I should be an example of this. I remember when I was a kid, I told myself I'd be a millionaire. I'm still not. I was making multiple 6 figures a year in my 20s, but I'm like, that's not enough. And so I decided to go on the journey of building what became High Ticket Coaching. And all I thought in my mind was, I want to be an example of this to my family, to my friends, and really to prove to myself that the things that I'm teaching is actually true. Because look, I'm living it. And for anyone watching this, if you're in the space of selling, teaching something, or education or coaching, it's far easier to build a business around something you're actually doing or living, and it's actually integrally right. But there are people that end up selling things that never actually are doing those things. And then we have the whole imposter syndrome phase. It's much easier to just go and actually do the thing you teach people. And so that's what I did. And by the age of 25, I did it. I had hundreds of clients around the world. We had made millions of dollars. I had like 2 cars, a Mercedes, a Jaguar F-Type. I had a luxury condo in Miami, a reputation. Everything you could think about as a kid you'd want, at least for me, I achieved it. And somewhere along the line, I stopped building the vision and I just got busy building a business. And the only focus became all about next month, how do we hit a bigger revenue number? How do we become bigger than that person? It was just all ego. It was just like, how do I become the best person in the industry? 2 standards. And it was just for me to fill my vanity, and I didn't know it. And I want you to know something. If you're catching yourself doing this, or if you're feeling these things right now, or maybe you're still in it, you don't even notice, don't feel bad. The ego has a way of doing it in such a beautiful way, you feel good about it. I mean, I sold myself a lot on like the missions I was doing and all this, but really deep down inside, when all of it started crashing down, I sat with myself and said, what's really driving me? Because when I started, it was a beautiful vision. It was an idea in my mind to be an example. I wanted to inspire people. I didn't even care about the $1 million. I didn't know what I was gonna do with $1 million. The most extravagant thing I spent on was $100 at a spa. And at that time, I remember I was like 25, I had like $500,000 in cash in my bank account after all expenses. And I remember saying to like, what am I gonna do with this money? And because I lost sight of the vision, instead of asking myself, why am I doing this? Or what's the next thing I wanna be an example of? Or what can we do that's a great example for the world? I started asking myself, how do we make more money? How do we get more leads? How do we make more sales? And that is when everything started going downhill. Now, if you're watching this and you wanna grow your business, here's 2 questions to never ask yourself. Number 1 is, how do we make more money? Fast way to kill your business. Number 2, how do we get more leads? Fast way to kill your business. Here's the questions to replace it with. How can I help people more? Help my clients more? Help my team more? Help my audience more? And then secondary, how can I help more people? Which is, how do I reach them? Where else can we share this message? What else kind of content can I put out? I learned this late. I hope you can take it early in your journey. And the reason is, by the way, is because when you ask yourself, how do I make more money or how do I get more leads? The actual ideas and answers that come up in your mind aren't the things that do get more money or get more leads. But when you ask yourself, how do I help the people I know more, or how do I help more people find them? Then in your mind, the things that come up is things that actually grow your business. If you ask yourself, how do I help people more? You can look at your clients, go, how can we help them more? And you do that one extra thing that they didn't expect, they will send you people. And so that's actually how you get your business to grow. Now, when you don't have vision and you're just building the business and the entire point of where you're going in your ship is just in circles of like, how do we just get faster than the next boat next to us? Then you start asking yourself the wrong questions. And at some point, I went from building my vision and using the business as a vehicle and instead making the business the actual end goal. And the business was no business is ever meant to be the outcome, the goal. It's supposed to be a vehicle. I also learned this one late, and I hope you can take from me as a lesson. Your business is a vehicle, no matter how attached you are to it, how romantically involved you are with it. It actually will never be anything more than a vehicle. And when you get romantically involved and you get attached to the business and you make it about you, first, you don't actually build good business. And second, you won't have a clear mind to actually be a great CEO or a good leader to that team that you're running. So for me, I went from being a millionaire, like working on myself, being the person, to managing $1 million business. And that's the game of the ego, is like when you achieve something, you now are busy managing that identity, which was never the goal in the first place. So let me tell you a little secret, okay? And I did a lot of coaching around this. There was like a theme across my elite clients, my one-on-one clients. And I told them, I said, look, success doesn't teach you anything. It does nothing for you. Only failure gives you great stuff. When you fail, you humble yourself. You ask better questions. You stop treating people poorly, because only when you think you're better than them can you treat them poorly, usually. When you're in a failure and you surrender, you learn to depend on your own self more. You build more self-esteem when you get yourself out. You have to rely on your own confidence. You become self-reliant. You go within and listen to your intuition, your subconscious mind. See, failure only activates you thinking right. But success completely blinds you. When you do achieve success, you only start to buy into the illusion that you are now something that's better than others, or that you have the right to do something or feel something. And it's so freaky how common this is. Actually, I was studying when I was going through, and I'm going to share in the story in a second, what happened to me and the point I reached where I stopped and I walked away from this business. In the midst of all my failure, I created this download came through to me, and I want to share this with you. I wrote here that nature penalizes those who do not use their mind, which is the purpose of failures, to reawaken the use of one's mind. But if you stop using it once you've solved your problems to create goodness, then you will be back to failure over and over again. See, wealth is achieved by the driven ones who continue to use their mind even after they get themselves out of failure. So problems force people to develop their minds through use, to think, to reason, to imagine, and to solve problems. This is straight out of Napoleon Hill, one of his books, Adversity and Advantage. And I share this with you because I realized I was working hard to get to the successful point, and I got sold this lie when I got there, and I sold it to myself, which is now I'm someone else, now I'm something new, now I'm better, now I'm that, now I'm this. And I stopped doing all the principles that actually got me to be that, to give me the privilege of that. Once that started happening, everything started falling apart. It was pretty scary. And now if you're dealing with any of these symptoms in your business or in your journey, don't worry. One, there's a way out. And second, listen carefully. Everything started really not working. I would go through these yo-yo phases. It was like endless. For years after the first million I made, I would go from hitting $600,000 months to barely scraping $100,000. Now that might sound like a lot of money to some people, but it's not when you're spending over $100,000 a month. There was a month where we did $600,000. I spent like $250,000. I remember looking back a year later, I'm like, what did I spend $250,000 on? That's some crazy, it's ludicrous. But that's what was happening, is my mind was not right and I was not leading from the right place or for the right reason. And so the business became this playground of just making terrible mistakes. And so I would yo-yo from really good months into like survival months where we're like cutting into our savings until like we have no savings. Then we got to do a crazy launch to sell something new or sell a different offer to try to make it. It was crazy. And during this time where I lost myself, I started to lose myself in the process. I lost some of my best people. They walked out on me. I hired the wrong people out of scarcity or desperation. My profits started to diminish. So even though I made more money, I actually had less money. And that's what also is another byproduct of not having visions. You're not doing it for the right reason. Therefore, you have an uncontrolled mind and you start to now spend for stupid reasons. Money stopped coming in as well, because how can you grow a business, which the fact of the metric of growing it is selling? How can you sell something you don't believe in, or you do not believe in yourself and you're the one selling? And so money stopped coming in, profits started to diminish, clients started backing out, refunds, withdrawing, because I was withdrawn mentally, spiritually from the game. And my team started losing its passion. And no matter what I did that was right, it wouldn't work. It was this crazy, scary thing where it's like I would do the exact same thing my own client would do. My client would go off and make a bunch of money, and we didn't. It was playing games with my mind. I was going mad. I remember looking out and I like picked offers that I seen. I'm like, that's easy to sell. Let's sell that. And I would change my offer. And then I would go out and do all the right things, marketing campaigns, got the team in place, put out the content, everything. And then somehow no sales at the end, very little calls. Team wouldn't get it out. And I'm like, whoa, this is some crazy stuff. It got so bad that we started to struggle just to get by month to month. We just make enough to make it. And then out of nowhere, I'd come in and I fix everything. My ego would tell me, if you're fixing things, your team sucks. And I would go out and make a bunch of money, like hundreds of thousands in a week or so, selling a bunch of things. And usually, honestly, as well, selling, like compromising on my own standards, which is me breaking my own principles of sales. Just because I'm like, you know what, I'll go above and beyond for this person for less money because we needed it. So I started to sell out myself. And every time you sell, compromising your own standards, you don't make money, you lose a piece of yourself. And I did this over and over again. And then I'd come back and yell at the team because the team, I go, you're making me this person. And it's like, I wasn't taking any ownership. And honestly, how could I? I was so blind, so blind. I had no idea the story I was playing on myself. And the same time going through all this, I would start to attach myself to being like other people. And I'll say this shameless me. At first, I'm like, I'm going to be Russell Brunson. And I started to speak really fast and make funnels. Then I'm like, Dan Henry, he's great. Let me replicate that business. Then I would look at Sam Ovens, go, I'm going to be like Sam Ovens. And then Alex Becker. And then, Alex Hermosi. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to build a portfolio business. And like my ego just dragged me through the mud. Every single path I can choose. And I was so afraid to just sit with myself and go, who am I? Why am I doing this? And so because I had no vision, I never really went within myself. And it's not that I never did. I did, but I didn't go for the right reason, or I went in with a story in my mind. And I would keep buying into other people's visions. And so no matter what I did, the business kept becoming this Frankenstein pieced together of different ideas I had at different times, because I was like a ship without a rudder. I'm just like floating in water and the waves are pushing me this way and that way. And so I started to lose myself. Now you can imagine how hard it is to maintain confidence in your own self when all you're doing is second guessing yourself, trying new things and not following through. So the thing that I thought would never happen, and let me tell you something, like I was teaching Think and Grow Rich. I never thought this would happen. I started to lose belief in myself. It was the most beautiful, humbling, delicious experience I've ever had. I needed it. I needed to feel like I mentally died for infinite intelligence, for God, the universe to get through to me. One day I woke up, this was recent, a couple months ago, and I had a very sudden disturbance in my heart and in my mind with all of it. Now, this wasn't the first time I questioned whether I wanted to keep doing this business or continuing, but this time was different. It was very dark, the feeling. It was a hollowness inside me. It was so depressing, that I sat there and it scared me. And so I sat here right in this chair and I closed my eyes and I really started to break down. And just thinking to myself, like, am I going crazy? And here's my message to you watching. You're not crazy. Nobody told you it was going to be this hard. And frankly, most of the time, people don't get into the business for the right reasons. But that's for you to decide. So in my desperation, after having lost myself, lost my confidence, lost really the respect to my team, but I'm very lucky and honestly undeserving of the incredible team I still have today, because they still stuck by my side through all this, people that are still here. And after all of this suffering and struggle, there I was sitting, thinking to myself, what do I do now? Because I genuinely don't know. And the only thing that filled my mind and the only thing I've ever had comfort in or safety in is mentorship. And there was only two people in my life I opened my mind to vulnerably. One is the president of Think and Grow Rich. His name is Satish Verma, and his son, Sunny Verma, who runs one of the largest tutoring companies in the world. And it's only because they're the only two people I've ever met that I feel is the closest to infinite intelligence, to God, has the most peaceful mind, has the truest and purest intention, and are still operating business and being in the world, and they're not monks. I trust them with all of my heart. So I called Satish. He's like a father to me. And that conversation, guys, it changed my life. I called him breaking down on the phone. And he always has this positive attitude because he's a student of Think and Grow Rich. He's always living what Napoleon Hill teaches. He's like, oh, Armin, how are you? Life is amazing. For 5 years I've known him, I've never seen him be negative once. It's crazy. That's the person who lives what he teaches. And I started breaking down, I said, Satish, how do I keep ending up here? I feel like I can't do this anymore. I don't like what I'm doing. I keep forcing myself to like it. I find ways to like it, but I honestly don't even know why nothing I do works anymore. And he's like, look at you. You've lost belief in yourself. I said, you know what? I have. How can a person have belief in themselves when all of this happens? And I asked him, I said, you've known me for so long. What's my problem? Now, he's the type of person who never tells you directly anything. He always teaches you in philosophically, indirectly. And he said, for the first time he told me directly, he said, Armin, it's your ego. I said, oh man, I've been dealing with this. I'm a master of ego. How can I not know? And here's the thing. That's how the ego works. The ego is an amazing servant, but a shitty master. And it had fooled me. He looked at me on the phone. He said, it's your ego. I said, Satish, what do you mean by ego? What is ego? And he said to me, ego is trying to prove something that you're not. And I said, you know what, Satish? That might be my life story. Since I was a boy, I never really thought I can be anything. So I always tried to be something else, thinking that will accept me. I thought I had overcome this, but still I'm running businesses this way. I just chose bigger people to become. I go, what do I do, Satish? He goes, first of all, what do you want? Think about that. Not what other people have or why it's so good because that person did something. Secondly, he said, command your subconscious mind to guide you. So I remember looking at him on the phone and saying, Satish, I'm afraid to do anything again because I can't honestly believe a word I say. Because no matter what I do, it's not working. It doesn't make any sense. It's playing with my mind. And he told me something, and this thing I want you to pay very close attention to because this one quote, this line, changed me in my soul. He says, Armin, the universe has a way of making sure that when a person is not consistent with their own nature, that nothing they do will work. And I thought, that's exactly what I feel like. As if there's some outside force. And no matter what I do, even though it looks and feels and seems like the right thing to be doing, I just I don't get rewarded for it. I don't get the outcome. So it's because I'm not being consistent with my own nature. Yes. Then it dawned on me. I've been thinking this whole time that I've been being punished. All of these things are happening to me. And even though I would say, no, it's happening for me. See, in my heart, I didn't truly believe it because I was angry that I didn't have the things I wanted or that what I said wasn't what happened. And this brings me back to something I read in Napoleon Hill's books. He says that failure is nature's attempt of realigning a person with themselves again. And that's when I realized I'm not being punished. I'm being redirected. So when I chose to change my offer and it didn't sell, I wasn't failing, I was being redirected. When I hired the wrong people or lost the good people, I wasn't failing, I was being redirected. When I would go through ups and downs, great months, bad months, but don't believe in myself, then I will believe in myself. I wasn't failing, I wasn't being punished, I was just being redirected as if everything in my life was tiny little tilts until it could reach me to this very moment when I had this breakthrough with Satish on that phone. And I finally chose to have the guts to just say it to myself. When I started the business, I wanted to do it for a purpose. I wanted to just be an example. But the moment I made that example and I achieved it, the only thing I replaced it with is how to make 10 times more money instead of infuse my mind with an idea that truly excites me. So I stopped running the business for the reason I started it. And so I told him, I said, Satish, I have to get out of this business. Because even though I'm great at it, we've had great results, all this, it's not right for me anymore. And he goes, Armin, this is the way to think. I say, this isn't my nature. I've never wanted to be the business guy. I've always just loved the philosophy of leadership of life, of how to communicate with yourself and other people, how to influence people. That's always been what I love, and how to build people up. I'm not the guy who builds a business. I'm the guy who builds the person who builds the business. And he told me, he's like, good. So if you're going through things, maybe you're not being punished. Maybe you're not failing. Maybe this isn't not supposed to be happening. Maybe it's actually all divine timing. It's all perfect because it's just redirecting you to move you into the exact moment where you need to be. Not every time doing the right thing feels good. In this case, for me, it felt very hard and very bad and very scary to do the right thing. And I think because it feels that way, most people don't do the right thing and they just settle for doing the wrong thing that feels good. But I didn't do that this time. And as hard as it was and all the work I put in and everything I did, going another moment lying to myself that I actually care about building this business or growing it and making more money wasn't right for me. And I was no use to anyone if I was not aligned with my own nature. So in that moment, I really didn't know what to do next. I just knew what I was doing was not right for me. In fact, there's a story like this I read in Napoleon Hill's books where one day he was running a $30,000 a year magazine business. It was a marketing business. It's called Golden Rule Magazine. At that time, that's the equivalent of making $500,000 a year in his currency. And he just woke up one day and had a sudden feeling, I'm not growing in this business anymore. I'm not really getting anything. I don't want to just be here to keep making money off it. I want to build business for a reason. So he walked into his office, gave the keys to his manager and said, this is yours. He didn't even want anything for it. He just walked away. He was known for his uncanny ability to follow his intuition and lead with that instead of just his logic all the time and what makes the most money. I think we need more of that in the world today. And I thought, why don't I start with myself? So something similar with me is what happened. I asked Satish, I said, Satish, what should I do now? He goes, very simple. Ask yourself, what do you want? Forget about everyone else. Just say, who are you and what do you want to build? Go to sleep tonight and tell your own subconscious mind, guide it. Say, hey, I want you to show me the way, tell me the guidance, give it to me, show me the message of what to do. And I said, okay, Satish, that's it. He goes, yeah, that's all. It was only 2 days until my subconscious showed me what I'm gonna do. I had a dream. When I woke up from that dream, I was very clear. It was a confirmation for something I've always wanted to do, but I didn't really know if I can or if it was the right move. And I was too attached and stuck in the business I had that I was afraid to jump into the thing I actually was passionate. And here I was thinking, I spent 3 years building this business that I had to now throw away. All the stuff I taught, the marketing, the offers, the tracking, the business performance, all that stuff. I thought, oh no, it's not useful because I'm gonna build something new. And this is how infinite intelligence works, this is how God works. I realized everything I had been building for the last 3 years was actually me practicing for what I'm about to build, for what I'm gonna do now, the vision I have now. I thought it was all a waste, but it was all divine timing. And I'm so excited now. Not only am I living the example of what I want to show the world, what it means to really lead a business, not just for the money, but for a vision. So many people have been asking me, what's next for you? You built this thing, you made all these people money, you made yourself money. What now? I tell you, stay tuned so you can watch how I'm gonna build the greatest sales school the world has ever seen.